From their car, countryside friends Nathan, Gaz, and Terry watch the house of the elderly couple, Dr. Huggins and Ellen. As Dr. Huggins bid his patients goodbye, the boys talk to each other to make sure that the couple won't be home that night. Terry says that Dr. Huggins always takes his wife out to dinner every Friday, so he's confident they'll be gone. As they continue discussing their plan, Nathan's girlfriend, Mary, arrives to demand her car back. They wonder how Mary found them, and she explains that Terry texted her their location. Mary then asks Nathan what they're doing out there, and Nathan replies that they're just hanging. Thinking that her boyfriend is lying, Mary tries honking the car's horn to make some noise, so Nathan tells her that they've got some business to take care of and he'll need the car for a few more hours. They then see the elderly couple leaving, so Nathan excitedly drives the car toward the house, leaving Mary as she protests for them to stop. To the boys' annoyance, Mary follows them, and once outside the Huggins residence, Nathan instructs her to keep on the lookout. Gaz proceeds to break a small part of the glass door, but Terry takes a spare key from under a flower pot before he could do more damage. They open the door, and once inside, Nathan and Gaz ask Terry where the safe with cash he's talking about is. Terry says that he doesn't know. This angers Gaz, so he carelessly goes through the house, breaking the couple's things. Terry pointlessly cleans up after Gaz's mess, reminding him that they agreed not to trash the place. As they search for the safe, Nathan finds the stairs that lead to the basement and asks Terry what's in there. Once more, Terry says that he doesn't know, so Nathan urges him to check it out. Terry, however, is reluctant due to his injured ankle. Eventually, they manage to persuade Terry to go downstairs while Nathan goes to look for Gaz. Meanwhile, Gaz finds Ellen's jewelry in the master's bedroom and takes them all. Outside, Mary cleans her car while waiting for the boys to finish ransacking the house. Terry searches the basement, Nathan takes food from the kitchen, and Gaz enters the room of the daughter, Kate. In the basement, Terry finds the safe and hurriedly calls the two. However, Gaz quickly gets pissed once they see that they can only open it through a dial lock, not with an electronic code, like what Terry's mom said. Nathan tries opening the safe with a drill and a sledgehammer to no avail, so he blames Terry for what's happening. Nathan then receives a call from Mary, telling him that she wants to go, but he tells her to wait. He looks at his friends for advice, and that's when Gaz suggests that they wait for the elderly couple so they can scare them into revealing the code. Nathan agrees and ends the call with Mary while Terry stands there, unable to do anything. The three watch television to kill some time until the couple arrives. Mary, on the other hand, gets impatient outside and starts yelling, calling out for Nathan. Terry starts to feel uneasy, so he offers to take Mary to her work since that's her main concern, then they'll just bring the car back. Nathan firmly tells him that they're not going anywhere, so Terry drops it. Nathan invites Mary in, and after a few minutes of persuading her, she agrees. Once inside, Nathan starts touching and kissing Mary while Terry could only watch on in envy. Nathan then takes Mary's phone when her boss calls her. Terry and Gaz try cleaning the house, and as they do, Gaz finds a photo of Kate. He teases Terry, saying they would make a lovely couple, and an irritated Terry takes the picture away from him. He explains that she was the elderly couple's daughter who died a long time ago. While Nathan and Mary continue making out, Mary lets her boyfriend know that she's pregnant. Despite his surprise, Nathan promises her that they're going to be all right, especially after they get the money. In the middle of their conversation, the couple arrives, and the three boys pull stockings over their heads, even forcing Mary to do it too. Deaf to her protests, Nathan tells Mary one last time to put on the hose, and she obliges. Once inside, Nathan, Gaz, and Terry try to restrain them, injuring Ellen along the way. They take the couple to the living area, where Dr. Huggins pleads to them to help Ellen. He tells the boys to take everything they want before turning to Mary, asking her to look for disinfectants and bandages for his wife. Mary agrees to sort it out, which only angers Nathan and Gaz. She comes back with the medicine kit and a glass of water for Ellen, and after the old woman drinks, Mary tends to her wound. Once Mary is done, Gaz orders her to tie Ellen up, and she apologetically complies. Nathan then asks Dr. Huggins what they can take, and the old doctor tells him where to find his credit card and the money he's keeping on top of the fridge. Not satisfied with the money they've acquired, Nathan asks Dr. Huggins about the safe, but the doctor denies having one. Despite the doctor's denial, the boys take the elderly couple to the basement. All the while, Mary maintains her distance, carefully watching everything. She then tells Nathan that she wants to leave, but Nathan defends his actions, claiming that he's doing it for her and the baby. Nathan asks Dr. Huggins for the safe's combination, but the doctor refuses to tell him, which resulted in Nathan getting mad and slapping him. In an attempt to make the doctor talk, Gaz threatens to hurt Ellen, but Mary protests, so Nathan stops him. Gaz picks up a blade and gives it to Nathan, urging him to use it on the doctor. At that point, Mary decides that she's had enough and heads back upstairs. Nathan is about to follow Mary when Gaz stops him, saying he'll handle it. Upstairs, Mary hides from Gaz in a bathroom and tries calling the emergency services. Unfortunately, Gaz finds Mary and grabs the phone by the cord before dragging her out of the bathroom. Meanwhile, Nathan and Terry listen to the commotion upstairs while Dr. Huggins tries to persuade Nathan to leave. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Huggins recognizes Terry and Nathan, surprising the two of them. On the other hand, Gaz continues attacking Mary, telling her that Nathan will finally leave her once they crack the safe open. As Dr. Huggins talks out the situation with Nathan, doubt suddenly fills the boy's mind, making him rethink what they're doing. Terry even sides with Dr. Huggins, saying that they should stop because it doesn't feel right. However, Nathan remains determined to get the money from the safe and threatens to cut Terry's tongue off if he doesn't shut up. Finally, Gaz takes Mary back to the basement and tells Nathan that she tried calling for help. As Ellen looks at Mary, she seems to recognize the girl, but Dr. Huggins stops his wife before she could say anything. Now tied up too, Mary pleads to her boyfriend to stop the robbery, but Nathan ignores her and puts a blade on Ellen's throat. Nathan once again asks the doctor what the code is. When Dr. Huggins still refuses to answer, Gaz whispers something to Nathan, and the latter threatens to cut off one of Ellen's fingers instead. The doctor pleads Nathan to think of Mary and his baby, but at that point, Gaz is already tired of playing games, so he points a gun at Dr. Huggins. Nathan gives the doctor one last chance to give him the code, but Dr. Huggins remains quiet. Since Nathan can't actually cut Ellen's finger off, he tells Gaz to do it instead. Gaz then mocks Nathan, saying he's now friends with the doctor and his wife. Still trying to pick up a fight with him, Gaz orders Nathan to cut Ellen's finger off, but Gaz puts his gun under Nathan's chin when Nathan refuses. Left with no other choice, Nathan places the blade on Ellen's finger, ready to cut it off at a moment's notice. With Ellen's finger bleeding and Gaz's gun pointed at Nathan's head, Nathan pleads for the safe's code. Just like before, Dr. Huggins keeps his mouth shut, and that's when Nathan seizes the opportunity to take a swing at Gaz with his knife, grazing his arm. Pissed, Gaz walks toward Nathan, who then tries to stab him but fails. Gaz deflects Nathan's attack and headbutts him. As the two of them fall over, they continue to fight until Gaz finally stabs Nathan. Horrified, Mary helplessly watches her boyfriend bleed on the floor. Dr. Huggins offers to treat Nathan's wound, but Gaz refuses to untie him. Instead, Gaz tries to make a deal with him by asking for the safe's code in exchange for freeing Dr. Huggins. The doctor finally agrees and gives Gaz the code, and as he does, Dr. Huggins signals Terry to untie him. Terry, however, is too overwhelmed by what's happening and starts to cry. Gaz continues to open the safe, but when he got to the last number, he realizes that it's wrong. Dr. Huggins gives him the correct number, but this time, he signals Mary to help him. Mary tries to untie herself but stops when they hear Gaz failing to open the safe again. Furious, Gaz saunters to Ellen then ties her body to a post with packaging tape. No matter how much Dr. Huggins pleads with Gaz to stop, he ignores him. Gaz then picks up a circular saw and turns it on, terrifying everyone. With the saw in hand, Gaz walks back to where Ellen is tied up, but he couldn't reach her due to the short cord. Not knowing that Mary has already managed to free her legs, Gaz plugs the cable into the socket behind Ellen and turns the saw back on. As he prepares to attack her with it, Mary hits him in the head with a sledgehammer, instantly killing him. She then turns off the saw and proceeds to untie Dr. Huggins before asking for Terry's help to bring Nathan to the hospital. However, Dr. Huggins takes out his gun and tells them that no one will leave. He unties Mary's bound hands and promises her that he'll treat Nathan. The doctor then asks Terry to help Mary carry Nathan upstairs. As they do, the doctor frees his wife and takes Gaz's keys. Terry and Mary manage to get Nathan on the doctor's operating table, but the Huggins is taking his time, choosing to tend to his wife first. Mary calls the doctor's attention, but Ellen answers her, saying they got what they deserve. Dr. Huggins recklessly operates on Nathan, almost as if he's hurting the boy on purpose. Despite this, he manages to get the blade out of him. After that, the doctor requests for Mary, Terry, and Ellen to leave the room so he can work properly. Dr. Huggins hands Ellen a small box, and the three of them reluctantly leave. Outside, Mary sits on the stairs while Terry helps Ellen to the living area. Terry then sits beside Mary, and they talk about how Dr. Huggins risked Ellen's life for a security code. Though he's exhausted, Terry assures Mary that everything's going to be okay. Ellen then picks up the broken telephone on the floor and mounts it back on the wall, giving Mary a disgusted look before walking away. Mary breaks down, and as Terry comforts her, he also tries to kiss her, making Mary back away. Mary gets mad that they are all in that situation, saying it's probably Terry's idea to rob the couple since his mom works there. The two continue to argue, with Mary bringing up her sister, Jane. Mary says that Jane didn't actually love Terry, she just pitied him and ended up despising him. She blames Terry for driving her sister away and even for how they lost her while Terry just sits there crying. After their argument, Mary goes to the living room, where she finds the small box that Dr. Huggins gave his wife. She is about to open it when Ellen arrives to take it back from her before calling Mary dirty. Ellen then starts sweeping the floor, and when Terry offers to do it for her, she guides the boy to the couch and offers to tend to his injuries. Mary leaves them and goes back to the operating room, finding Nathan looking as if he's already dead. Dr. Huggins assures her that he's only sleeping due to the medication he gave him, but Mary doubts it, saying that Nathan's body is so cold. When she asks the doctor where the ambulance is, Dr. Huggins says it's on its way but promises to call them again just to put Mary's mind at ease. Mary follows the doctor when he makes the call, and as he speaks, she realizes that he's only pretending to talk to someone since the phone's cord is broken. Mary backs away from the doctor before throwing up in the nearby sink. With Mary looking pale and on the verge of passing out, the doctor offers her some medicine. Mary refuses and instead closes the door to the operating room. This is when she sees Ellen injecting Terry with something. Horrified, Mary tries to flee only to find the door locked. Mary turns around, and when Ellen sees her, she tells the young lady to remove her shoes. Mary ignores Ellen and tries heading to the other door, but it's locked, too. As she turns around, she finds Ellen in the hallway, mad at her for wearing her shoes inside the house. She even calls her Kate. Suddenly, Ellen slaps Mary and Dr. Huggins appears in the hallway to remind her that Mary isn't Kate. He also tells Ellen that Mary is Jane Fallah's twin, and that they're from the village. Ellen, who seems to be coming back to her senses, remarks how Mary has grown. Ignoring what the couple is saying, Mary asks Dr. Huggins what Ellen gave Terry, and he says that it's just an analgesic. He also adds that Ellen has worked as his nurse for many years. As the couple walks away, he tells Mary that he's constantly jogging Ellen's memory, giving her small challenges every now and then. Mary goes to the living where she finds Terry eating and watching television. She asks for his phone to call for help, but Terry says he gave it to Ellen. Mary couldn't believe that Terry gave his phone away, and when she is about to tell him that Nathan is dead, the elderly couple arrives. They all go to the dining area, where the couple offers them tea, but Mary wants to smoke instead. When Ellen stops her from smoking, Mary tries going outside through another door, but it's also locked. Dr. Huggins says he can't let them leave and instead tells her to drink her tea while waiting for the ambulance. Perplexed, Mary stands by the door as she listens to Dr. Huggins lecture about the effects of smoking on an unborn child. He also thanks Mary for killing Gaz, saying it wasn't easy to take a human life and that because of her, he and his wife survived. Once again, he asks Mary to sit down and drink her tea, and she finally obliges. As soon as Mary sits at the table, Dr. Huggins starts talking about his late daughter, Kate. He tells Mary and Terry how much they loved her and how they never once resented the girl for having to take care of her even though Kate occasionally made it hard for them. When Ellen is about to drink her tea, Dr. Huggins stops her, and Ellen suddenly remembers that it's for Mary. Dr. Huggins then stands and walks to a cabinet to retrieve a scrapbook that contains detailed information about the missing girls and their place throughout the years. The scrapbook shows newspaper clippings and pictures of the lost girls, including Mary's twin sister, Jane. When she realizes that the elderly couple poses a threat, Mary stops Terry from drinking his milk, shocking everyone at the table. She asks for her phone back, saying she needs to call Nathan's mother, but the doctor pretends not to understand. Mary says Nathan had his phone, but it was gone when she checked it in his pockets, so she's sure that the couple has it. Mary starts yelling, saying that if it weren't for Nathan, the elderly couple would be dead and that Dr. Huggins lied about calling the ambulance. She demands them to tell her what's going on, but the doctor tries to calm her down while Ellen pushes her to drink her tea. Fed up, Mary breaks everything at the table and grabs a knife, demanding the couple to open the door. Unfortunately, the doctor is too strong for her, and he manages to take the knife from Mary's hand. He grabs her by the hair and starts dragging her out of the room. Dr. Huggins locks Mary inside a cupboard under the stairs while Ellen screams profanities at her. Terry could do nothing but watch. Inside the cupboard, Mary screams her lungs out, begging Terry for help, but he won't help her. She tries telling him that Nathan is dead, but Terry only ignores her. In the couple's bedroom, Ellen tells her husband that she wants to punish Mary for being bad. Dr. Huggins says he'll do it for her, but Ellen insists on doing it herself. Downstairs, Mary tries to convince Terry that Dr. Huggins has killed Nathan, but Terry still refuses to believe her. Suddenly, he notices that his legs have gone numb from what Ellen has injected him. Hallucinating that Mary is Jane, Terry opens the cupboard, finally letting Mary out. Mary goes looking for the keys, and as she does, Terry takes a peek inside the operating room, where he sees Nathan's dead body. Still refusing to believe he's dead, Terry looks for Mary and finds her in Kate's room, about to escape through a window. He gets upset that Mary would leave without him, but she insists that she was just about to call him. Terry then tries to kiss her again, forcing Mary to back away and fall onto the bed. Just then, a fumigation canister is thrown inside Kate's room. She picks it up, and suddenly, the windows close from the outside. They immediately leave the room to look for a way to escape. Terry puts his arm around Mary for balance, but with his legs going numb, he falls down the stairs. While Mary's grabbing a knife by the stairs, she notices someone walking by. But with the smoke around, she couldn't clearly see. However, since Ellen is donning a protective suit, she has no problem seeing and hitting Mary with a whip while the girl can't even defend herself. Ellen continues with her cruel lashes, but Mary manages to hit the woman with a vase, knocking her down. Mary wastes no time taking Ellen's gas mask to put it on, and as she does, Ellen injects her with some medication. Meanwhile, Terry is being dragged away, and Mary does the same to Ellen before tying her in the kitchen. She demands to know what she injected her with, and when Ellen refuses to speak, she slaps her several times. Suddenly, Dr. Huggins arrives and takes her mask off before strangling her. Mary breaks free from the doctor by biting his finger, and she eventually locks him out of the room. The doctor loses his finger in the process when Mary repeatedly tries shutting the door with his hand between it and frame. Finally getting the upper hand, Mary puts a knife to Ellen's throat and threatens to kill her if the doctor doesn't give her the keys. Unfortunately, the effects of the drugs start to kick in, and Mary feels the relaxant working. Still, Mary demands to have the keys while she hears the doctor talking to Terry, pleading for his help. Mary orders him to leave the keys and Terry outside the door, and he agrees. When Mary goes out, she finds Terry lying on the floor with the keys in his pocket. With Mary dragging Terry by the feet, they reach the garage, and Mary finally gets Terry inside the van. As Mary prepares to drive, she sees the elderly couple blocking the way, and that's when Terry suddenly shoots her. The doctor sits in the driver's seat, remarking that Terry isn't a very good marksman. He comments about how he and Ellen were considering letting Mary stay but then decided against it. They leave Mary in the van to die as they put Terry in the